20 minutes and having difficulty here finding really any active search on the ground. Not to say that it's not going on here, but when we say scaled back, it looks like search efforts have been really scaled back here. But well, we'll get to Paul Lamson here in just a second. You see all the hashtags here around your screen. We want to bring you into the conversation here. It's a new week here. It is Monday, September 27th. We want to hear from you here. What do you think about the search efforts being scaled back? What do you think about that line? Targeted based on intelligence. That's interesting. We'll kind of break that down. Use any of the hashtags here on your screen. And yes, we're also going to talk about the DNA that was collected, or the DNA sample that is said to have been collected, reportedly collected from the Laundrie family household here over the weekend. So use any of the hashtags here around your screen. Hashtag Hey Paul, hashtag Hey Walt, hashtag Hey JB. But speaking of Paul, let's check in with Eagle 8 HD's Paul Lamson. Hey there, Paul, over the radio. What have you seen so far in Eagle? You've been live here for some minutes, for many, many minutes now, but what are you seeing here from Eagle?
You want to sell your product. Consumers want to see its value. With quality product video ads, everyone gets what they want. Get yours made today on.
Hey, JB, good afternoon to you. It's a completely different search. Now, let me explain that. Originally, they searched down where we're flying now at the Myakkahatchee Environmental Park out into the Carlton Reserve. We're down in the Northport area. The search had moved to the northern, or the western side up by Venice, and they had been focusing there. That's where the large searches were, and they had been doing that until Friday when we came down here. We couldn't find anyone. So today we came down, we went over the command center that had quite a bit of cars. Today, not a single car in the command center. That area is still closed off to park visitors, but no searching. We came down to the Myakkahatchee Environmental Park, and that's where we saw them setting up a new, smaller command center. We saw 10 vehicles there. I think about 6 of them marked, 4 unmarked, and a trailer. However, we haven't seen any activity. We followed out from the command center into the reserve, Carlton Reserve, and we've yet to see any kind of searching at all out in this area. And I want to show you something, just how wet it is out here. It seems even more wet from before. These are power lines. They usually string them on drier, higher land. You see where the power lines are. They're down now into the water. There's a lot of water here that we've noticed, and it almost seems like more that the rain from the past several days, everything ends up in this area of the Carlton Reserve. It's a lot wetter, and this search, they did say it was scaled back and the FBI was leading it. Northport Police told us that, and definitely scaled back. We have yet to see anybody out in this area doing any kind of searching. The command center, which was over to the side, is almost, there's hardly any vehicles and very little and no activity that we've seen. So we're over the area now, and what we're doing is we're just flying, and anything that catches our eye, we look. The only things I've seen some birds, and I did see one like empty, like store bag that was blowing around, but nothing as of note. And that's what the Northport Police told us. And even over the weekend, they have not found any evidence that they can link to Brian Laundrie, but they're still out here. They've moved the search now further to the east, down towards Northport. But again, look, I'm going to move the camera and show you where we are. Just look at this vast area. We're talking 25,000 acres of search. Here's where we are, and I'm going to show you where the other search was. If you follow this roadway all the way down to these homes, right out in front of those homes is where the old search was, where they were really combing those woods that are in the center of your screen. Now, if I move the camera, you see how far they've moved down to this new area, and that's where they continue to search. But today, we have not seen anyone out here searching. And again, this area is the same area they've searched for a few days. They then moved to the west to search, and now they're back to the east, down by Northport again by the, they're entering and exiting the park through the Myakkahatchee Environmental Park and coming out into the Carlton Reserve. But again, JB, we have not seen anybody out searching, and they say they're going to search on basically evidence or DNA or stuff like that, but we haven't seen anybody focused even in any area. And we've been flying around now for the last probably 40 minutes, and we started at the old search. We're down in the new area. We haven't seen even a person, a dog, an ATV, a truck. The only trucks we saw out were doing different work, nothing with the search. So JB, that's what we're doing now. We're just flying over this area. So to me, it looks like this search has grown cold. They either know something and they're not telling us, or they've exhausted it and they're just going to now go back and search bits and pieces, maybe of what the parents told them, maybe what they figured out. But right now, JB, this is not the same kind of search that we've seen the last few days and few weeks. So now it seems to really narrow down and tightened up, and it's small, and we haven't even seen any searching. So JB, I'm going to throw it back to you, because from up here we can see quite a distance, but we haven't seen any searchers yet in the Northport area of the Carlton Reserve. Back to you, JB.
Paul, here's what we're going to do here, Paul, and I hit the wrong button here. Let's go back here to Eagle 8HC here live. Paul, here's what we're going to do. We're going to leave your comms open here. We're going to leave your mic up. If you do spot anything, please feel free to just come through on the mic, and Walt and I will allow you to speak here. So if you see anything from Eagle, let us know.
We will do that, JB. We'll be up here, and we'll fly around for the next little bit.
All right, folks. Eagle 8HD's Paul Lamison will keep his comms at about half volume here. Let's come back here with you live. JB Buno, Walt Buteau. Let's read that email from this morning from Josh Taylor. Now, Josh Taylor, of course, who we spoke to on WFLA Now, he is the spokesperson for Northport Police and has been providing us with all of these updates here. So let's read exactly what he said. And he said, this is an email from Josh Taylor, Public Information Officer. He said, Walt, I don't think you're going to see those large-scale types of efforts this week. The FBI is now leading the search. I'm told it will be scaled back and targeted based on intelligence. Hopefully, water will be lower in areas hard to currently access. Specific questions about the search will now be directed to them. NPPD will continue to assist based on their direction. Unfortunately, that also means interviews need to run through them too, as far as the FBI now really being fully in charge here of the search efforts that are currently ongoing here, the manhunt for Brian Laundrie here. But we'll start to bring in some of your hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyWalt, hashtag HeyPaul comments and questions here. Will search been targeted based on intelligence all along?
Maybe, I think last week, maybe they had a wider area that they wanted to narrow down as a place, or eliminate really as a place. I think sometimes, many times, most times I should say, in investigations, you want to eliminate things as much as you want to uncover things, and maybe they wanted to eliminate that area, and now in the scaled back version, the word target, I don't think they used that last week, that they're targeting specific smaller areas. But great question, JB, because we're pretty sure last week's was based on some sort of intelligence, at least we hope it was.
Yeah, and Ashley Schilling here saying hashtag HJB based on intelligence of what? And we don't know. And again, the FBI, Northport Police, the investigators on the manhunt for Brian Laundrie, they can only give out so much information here. They're not allowed, of course, to, and they won't be giving out any information that, of course, discloses too much about the search tactics that are being employed here as far as trying to find where Brian Laundrie is, whether he's here at Carlton Reserve or whether he's elsewhere. We are going to talk about the Appalachian Trail here. There's a lot of conversations we're going to have. So for those of you just joining us, I know we're constantly engaging a new digital audience here. Hello there to you. We've got Paul Lamison with an open mic here. He's in Eagle 8HD. We'll be bringing him in as he finds things of note here as he flies over this now newly sort of, let's say, this retooled search here for Brian Laundrie at Carlton Reserve, really closer to Myakkahatchee here. Walt and I are going to talk more about the DNA that was collected over the weekend. That was an interesting development. And two, we're going to continue to take your hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyWalt comments and questions here. Let's take just a couple here and get through some of the comments that are already filed in here in our queue. And let's see here. Let's take this one. Jill Dixon. Hashtag AJB, when will we get Gabby's autopsy results, and when will it be released to the public? Of course, we had the funeral and the memorial service yesterday in New York, and now there's a lot of people wanting the autopsy results. And again, what we expect is there to be preliminary autopsy results at least released first, and that could come today, Walt. I mean, that could come today, that could come tomorrow. That's probably something we're going to find out sooner, I would imagine, rather than later, unless it's an extremely complicated case and it's a non-obvious cause of death from the medical examination that's been conducted in Northwest Wyoming.
Well, it was ruled a homicide just last week, correct?
Right.
And at that point, the body was found only a week ago Sunday, and then the autopsy, I believe, the results or the manner of death was released Monday or Tuesday. I don't have the timeline in front of me, but at that point, when they conducted the autopsy, as they started at that coroner in that county in Wyoming, came out and said usually their autopsies take 2 to 3 weeks. So now we're getting into week 2. But you're right, preliminary results could happen. We could know the cause of death sooner rather than later if they're able to determine that, or not. Again, I know people are frustrated, but keep in mind, this is an open criminal investigation, and the agents and the officers involved, they have a goal, and that is to make a case and to see what they can prove in court, and that's their goal. Their goal is not to inform us. I will tell you this, a shout out to the FBI. I had emailed last week trying to ask, I think it was Friday, asked, was that $1,000, more than $1,000 in the indictment of Brian Laundrie, the indictment for credit card fraud, was it one lump sum taken out in cash, or was it many transactions across the country? And you know, I really didn't expect any result because
response from the FBI.
Imagine how many
inquiries,
emails they have, and I did get a response. It wasn't what I wanted, but they did respond. It was not a robo response, and they said, we can. What the FBI always says, we can either confirm or deny any of the details, but at least they did respond, which says a lot about those folks out there. So they're very busy, and they're getting a lot of questions like this one.
Let's talk now about the DNA. Thank you, Jill, for your question. We're going to talk about the DNA. Again, 8 on your side, senior investigator Walt PETITO joining us. We've got Eagle 8 HD's Paul Lamison in the sky here as well. We'll be listening in here for Paul. I'm just going to bring his levels up here. So if anything comes through from Paul, we'll be able to listen in. But right now, the search for and the manhunt for Brian Laundrie scaled back to the point where Paul can't find where they are, where they're searching here near Myakkahatchee. That's a considerable development considering all the crews and everything that we had over the course, of the week prior here. You remember some of this video that we received here, showing, them trekking through the mud. And not to say that this isn't happening, but Paul is as experienced as any chopper pilot and photographer in the country, and he hasn't been able to find them, and he's about 35 minutes, 40 minutes or so into combing through here. We'll bring it back up here live, the very, very rural Carlton Reserve near Myakkahatchee. So you can use hashtag #HeyPaul, hashtag #HeyWalt, hashtag #HeyJB, and we can animate your comments here on screen. But let's talk about what occurred over the weekend. The DNA sample that was reportedly collected from the Laundrie family house here, Colleen Claire Hartigan Larson, hashtag #HeyJB. I would think they'd have gotten his DNA way before this. So let's put away Colleen's comment here, and let's show you the video that occurred here over the weekend. I'm going to walk you through what exactly transpired here. This is, again, from the weekend yesterday, right, Walt? I mean, this is yesterday. So the FBI pulls up here. There you see the black SUV. FBI gets out, and they head, right for the front door here, walk right here into the Laundrie home. They have a officer then stationed outside here to ensure, of course, that nothing compromises the execution here of them again collecting the DNA sample here, or DNA evidence here. They go in, and we're going to kind of flash forward here now, because they were in the house for 3 minutes, Walt. 3 minutes. We counted 3 minutes, and they were back out, which is very, very quick. So they went in there likely with the intention to get something specific. I've heard things, talked about, and this is pure speculation, but of course on Twitter, like something as simple as a toothbrush. I mean, going in there to collect something, put it, of course, in that you know, it's there with the officer here or with the agent of the FBI, and then they drive away. It's that simple. So what do we know, Walt, about this DNA sample that was collected here at the Laundrie family household yesterday?
Not a lot. We know the size. We know what you said, the amount of time they were in there, which would lead you to believe that they knew exactly what they were looking for. But yeah, there's no doubt that the FBI had been in there last Monday. And the assumption was they were looking for DNA at that point. They also have his Mustang, and they have Brian Laundrie's Mustang, and they have the van, all of which we can believe would have been scanned for DNA. Here's what experts have told me, though, and police officers. And I've called 7 retired FBI agents this morning, several police officers, and we're reaching out to some DNA experts. One thing to keep in mind.
Hold on, Paul's opening his mic here.
Hey, JB.
Let's communicate with Paul here. Just, hey, Paul, it's JB. What'd you find?
We haven't found anything. I just wanted to give you guys a shot of this because earlier we showed it and then we didn't for a while. This is the new makeshift command center. This is where they started the original search. This is in the Myakkahatchee Environmental Park. And you see, this is really the only activity we've seen, and we haven't even seen activity. We've seen vehicles parked, and we haven't seen any of the people. But you see there's about 10 vehicles out here. There's a Sarasota Sheriff vehicle, there's Northport Police, and then 3 unmarked vehicles, 4 with the trailer, almost like they're going to set up a command center, but there isn't a command center yet. This is the only sort of activity we've seen, and again, this is the area I wanted to show you at the beginning of the park. So that's nothing new, JB, but just wanted to give your viewers a chance to see where the search is centered from. This was the original area where they started searching. So I'll throw it back to you guys.
Thanks, Paul. Again, we'll keep your mic open and crystal clear in the event that you see something out there that you'd like to report. Mic will remain open. Thanks, Paul. All right, Eagle 8 HD's Paul Lamison, as I tried to ask him a short time ago here to keep us posted on anything that he finds out there. But yes, that was at the very beginning of our stream here in a couple of different places, a couple of different social media platforms. So if you missed it, that just goes to show that the headquarters for the search efforts is smaller, and clearly the search efforts are smaller. And it's not that they're trying to conceal that. The spokesperson for Northport Police saying here this morning that the search efforts are being scaled back and more targeted based on intelligence, which is of course interesting, and we can talk more about that here. But Walt, we were just talking about the DNA evidence. I'll let you continue.
Well, so a child's DNA could be very close to a parent's DNA, very, very, very close. And again, if they're building a case, they don't want very close. They want as close as possible. So as this one officer said to me, in a perfect case, in a perfect scenario, you would want the DNA of the child and both parents, so that the expert that could then tell the difference and sort of rule out the parents and sort of show that that slight difference between the 3 types of DNA. Because in a house, in a family's house, you're going to have the DNA of everyone who lives there, and you could get hair samples from a father and a son, and a defense attorney could theoretically say, well, wait a minute, you don't know that's so-and-so's DNA. And so you want to be as close as possible. And a parent does not have to give up their DNA. And if they found 3 various types of DNA in there that are very close to each other, they wouldn't know whose is whose. And then to try to match that to a crime scene, now again, you want to be as close as possible, and it's all about building a case. So for all we know, they grabbed something in there that they know belongs to Brian Laundrie, and now they want to use that to potentially match it to the scene of this homicide or something else. He, again, only a person of interest, not only a person of interest. It's very close to be a person of interest and a suspect, but just a person of interest, not a suspect yet in that case.
Again, wanted on that federal arrest warrant for credit card fraud using the Capital One debit card that it was said to be, of course, that's illegal. and now the subject of the federal arrest warrant for use of unauthorized access devices. Still have that indictment right here in front of me. A lot of papers here on my desk.
A quick note on Friday, late in the afternoon, we were both here. I was finishing something up, and I checked Pacer one last time. At the bottom of the Brian Laundrie docket, it said arrest warrant, a new arrest warrant. And of course, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, here it is.
So we are scanning, of course, here, folks, and staying very much on top of any new documentation that comes through here on this case. A lot of documentation could be available this week. Yeah,
sure.
It could become available in the next couple of hours. So we're going to stay on top. And if there's significant documentation that becomes, again, publicly available through a public records request, or it's just, uploaded to Pacer, we'll, of course, pass that along here to you and break it down. And we're live here on WFLA Now. And if there's any new developments here, whether it's pertaining to documentation, the search efforts, something going on outside of the Laundrie family home, we'll, of course, let you know about it.
But in this particular case, that document that I thought was a new indictment was actually the old indictment, but they had just reposted it with a slight parenthetical adjustment. So it was alarm went off at first, but it was just a slight adjustment to the original indictment, which is for the unauthorized access devices, which is the credit card fraud case.
We'll continue to take your hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyWalt questions here. A lot of people theorizing if Brian Laundrie isn't at Carlton Reserve, if he's not at Myakkahatchee, if he's not where authorities are looking, then is he somewhere else, and where could he be? We're going to get into some of those questions and comments coming in here, including I had a very curious one just come in here a moment ago. But let's just stay on the DNA evidence here for another minute or two. Rebecca English, hashtag HeyJB. Didn't they just go there last week? Why wouldn't they have taken it at that time, Walt?
Well, I bet they did, but did something happen during the week that said we need this? Again, I'll say it again. They could have collected DNA at a house, at any house, speaking hypothetically, because nobody's charged with anything. You could collect DNA at a house. You could have the mother, the father, another relative, and the child, and you want to know which DNA you have. So theoretically, do you go back and get something that specifically belongs to him, and now maybe it's a comb, maybe it's a toothbrush, because now you're going to be able to have a better match. And again, it's about building a case.
Hold on a second here. I just saw something from Eagle, and I want to bring this up here, folks. I want to bring this up from Eagle 8AC More. Hey, Paul, you just found something there. What was that? That looked like... what did you just have?
Maybe that was a deer stand. We saw that earlier. We're down probably further east than where we were. And then there's this as well we found. Again, we don't know if they've even searched this area. We think they probably have. It looks like somebody's living out here. Let me get you a shot of it. Yeah, it's an old RV or a travel trailer we saw as well. Again, I don't know if this is just someone out here. Looks like an old RV that's parked out here. We don't see any activity near it, but we just saw it. And anything that catches our eye, we're going to look.
Paul,
but this looks like this is an area that somebody has been here, like maybe living or just thrown out. We don't see any new activity out here. But anytime we see stuff, and there's like a junk pile out there as well.
Paul, let me ask you this.
We just, when we spot stuff, we want to look.
Radio comms here. Hey, Paul, let me ask you this. Just how you've been searching this area now from Eagle 8 HD for more than a find, like an RV and trash and discarded belongings there, like you just found there with that mobile home that appeared to just be abandoned?
Yeah, here's what happens, JP, out in this area. This is basically this road and this that you see right out there. That's almost like the southern end of the Carlton Reserve. Now, and this road is almost the other end of it. So out into here, you get into more people's property. And so I think that's what we were on. When you see property, I think people maybe store stuff and it kind of blends into the park. But out in the main part of the park, we haven't seen anything like that. That's why it really caught our eye, because we were really near the edge of the Carlton Reserve where it goes into people's property. Like, I'll show you this. This is Carlton Reserve as far as you see, but if I move the camera to the left a little bit, right over here are homes. So these are people that live close to it. So then when you get close to that, I think you're seeing stuff, and I think that's really what that was. At first, it struck us as odd, and we wanted to check it out. We saw the deer stand, then we saw the old trailer, but we also saw some construction. So we think we were probably out of the reserve. Now that we're back in it, this is, again, this is what we see, and we really haven't seen anything like that before, and I think we might have been too far outside of the search area. But again, JB, anytime we see something that strikes us, we come back and check. So that's, I think, could be it. I don't think it's anything. But again, there's the command center, and we might have been a little too far out of it, but we just wanted to check it out anyway. So I'll throw it back to you, JB.
Thanks, Paul. We'll, again, keep your comms open here, and if you spot anything interesting, don't be shy. We'll keep your mic open.
Okay.
So back here with you live here, folks, JB Buno, Walt Buteau. I think that's a very interesting portion of the search here, because we've been talking, Walt. We'll go back to, there's more questions in the queue here about the DNA component of this. We are going to resume that conversation here in a second. But let's talk, because our YouTube, hello YouTube, Facebook, and our audience watching here on social media just lit up with people saying, wow, so that's an RV, that's a mobile home, an abandoned mobile home. And while, we don't know if that has been searched, if that particular unit has been searched, and we don't know if how many of those types of abandoned mobile homes or abandoned RVs are out there. But let's just point this out. We've been talking here about the elements over the last 10 days. The nonstop rain, shelter, having some form of shelter is advantageous for somebody that is trying to disappear out here. And while being in that RV and being in a camper like that for an extended period of time would be unbearably hot. It's still it's still a place where, in theory, you could hide. Now, is that too obvious of a hiding spot for somebody like Brian Laundrie if he is, in fact, out here trying to elude authorities? But I just want to note that our comment section just lit up here. And I asked Paul, I said, Paul, like, how many RVs like that? How many abandoned mobile homes and campers are out there like that? Because if there's a lot, then in theory, Brian Laundrie, if he knows the area well enough, he can move from one to the other. But at the same time, you would think that makes it way more simpler for the FBI and for law enforcement, to find Brian, because that would be an obvious place to check.
Right. But, you could theoretically, since he might have known, somebody had pointed this out to me on Facebook, that the noise that the search was making could theoretically alert someone to go to a new location when they heard that noise.
Hold on, Paul.
Go ahead. A couple things for the later newscasts. So if you want to turn my mic off for a little bit.
10-4, Paul. Thank you. All right, Paul is going to be recording some reports here for our newscast later on tonight here. So we'll put his mic down temporarily and we'll bring it back up here soon. But Walt, continue.
Yeah, I think that, but at night, if he is confident enough to know there's not boots on the ground at night, I guess you could go into something like that if you are desperate, especially in the rain, I guess. Although, I don't know, if you're theoretically running from something, are you really that worried about getting wet in the rain? I don't know if I would be. I mean, it's not like it's the middle of winter in the Northeast when you're going to freeze to death. I guess you would maybe be leery of animals and such in the middle of the night, nocturnal animals.
I would just say that I'm not entirely sure whether or not he would seek cover from the rain or try to get something, get something over his head and to sneak into an RV or a camper like that. But I would say this, that an abandoned RV camper like that would be a pressure cooker of heat. You couldn't just go in there with how hot it is during the day. There's no way you could just go in there and stay for hours.
No.
You would lose 10 pounds. I mean, you would. It would make a sauna look like an igloo. I mean, it would be so swelteringly hot in there. So you know, I would imagine that that's something that they would check.
Yeah.
And a place
you
like a
would
deer
think.
stand.
Absolutely.
I mean, these are things that are going to be checked. But for police to just go into an RV and a camper and just find him lounging up there, reading a magazine and kicking his feet up on an old rundown lazy boy in there, and oh, there's Brian. He was just in there all along. I think everybody wants it to be that simple, but right now I just don't know if it's going to be that simple. Back to the DNA conversation. Is there anything you want to add before I take some more questions about the DNA that was collected this weekend in the weekend trip here this Sunday, September 26th?
No, just again that I think, to me, if anything, it seems to be about a process of elimination. I did have one retired FBI agent who said to me, she said, I think I know why they're doing it, but I don't want to say it because I don't want to ruin the investigation. And that's sort of what we're dealing with here. We want public information. Everybody wants information, but there you have it stated from a retired agent that, that there are things you don't want to be said because you don't want the person of interest or the suspect to know what was said in public. So that's why you hold things close to your vest.
And again, people are noting here that they didn't go into the house, or somebody was noting here that they didn't go into the house. So there they go into the front area here, and it looks like they knock on the door. Can we confirm, Walt, to your knowledge, that they did in fact go into the house? Again, it was a brief visit, only 3 minutes long.
Let me read you the exactly what Stephen Bertolino, the Laundrie's attorney, said, who we believe they met with him last Wednesday. Was that Wednesday they drove to Orlando? The FBI requested some personal items belonging to Brian Laundrie to assist them with DNA matching, and Brian's parents provided the FBI with what they could. Thus, you would think you didn't have to go in the house. You went, they gave you the stuff, and you left. With this in mind, it seems like the Laundries cooperated with that request.
Okay. Let's take some more questions and comments here. We'll say one or two more about the DNA line of questioning. And Jennifer Washington, #HJB, #HWalt. Did they have a warrant for the DNA, or are the parents just actually cooperating, is what Jennifer here is saying.
I think in that statement, the FBI requested and Brian's parents provided. So they could have needed a warrant if they didn't cooperate, but they apparently cooperated in this case, in this particular part of it.
Sandy Neldon, #HJB. Any chance the parents are in custody? I've seen no coverage of them. We've had many. I'm going to say there's no chance.
There's no chance they're in custody.
First of all, there's no chance they're in custody, as the Walt is saying here, and to say that Sandy must be a new viewer, because we've been talking about of course, Chris and Roberta Laundrie here. We've been talking about them and showing you video of them every time they go in or out of the house. We have something to show you here. So saying that I've seen no coverage, they made that trip to Orlando. That was for legal reasons that Walt just mentioned a short time ago. That was last week, and so there's been plenty of coverage of the Laundrie family, to say the least. Say that again. Oh, okay, that's interesting. Let's go split screen here, folks. Hit a couple buttons on the touch screen here, and let's hit that. 1, 2, 3, and 4. There we go. Split screen. Live on the left side of your screen from Eagle 8 HD, live over the Carlton Reserve near Myakkahatchee, where the search and manhunt for Brian Laundrie continues, but it is a retooled manhunt here, being scaled back here in this area as police efforts are now being, quote-unquote, targeted based on intelligence. On the right side of your screen, live for the Laundrie home in Northport, Florida, you can see there that is the home, and what you don't see is what's across the street from that yellow home, which is, of course, endless amounts of cameras, members of the media, and I'm sure police that are just keeping a very close eye here on the Laundrie home for a multitude of reasons here. So live here, split screen on WFLA Now, showing you the ongoing manhunt efforts here on the left side of your screen, even though Paul has really been unable to find anything super active here on the ground. And on the right side of your screen here, things relatively quiet right now. But you see there the Ford Mustang convertible. You see the camper. You see some of the vehicles here that we have been talking about here over the course of the last 10 days. Those vehicles and that Mustang and that camper, very much part of this story and part of the online sleuthing that is going on places like Reddit, on Twitter, on TikTok. We'll keep you if we see anything. We're going to stay here with you live, mostly on the left side of the screen. That's I think what people are That's obviously more active right now. It's very quiet here outside of the Brian Laundrie home. But if anything changes here on the right side of your screen, well, of course, we can hit the touch screen, and we're back there live here for you folks from right outside Brian Laundrie's home. Back here with you live, everybody. Any final thoughts here, Walt, before we move on? Again, this was the visit yesterday. This is here in the center of your screen when the FBI pulled up, executed the request for DNA. Any final thoughts here before we move on from this portion of the conversation?
I think the theory that they're trying to match something they had earlier from somewhere else to knowing it is Brian Laundrie's DNA is a really good theory, especially, sometimes rereading a statement helps because, again, and I think that's why they went back. I think that we can sort of assume that's why they went back and that they had something else. They probably already had some DNA, but they want to make sure it's Brian and perhaps not the father or the mother so that they know that it's a match as they, again, build this case. And again, again, one more quick point. That camper, I had more questions over the weekend about that camper. People are obsessed with what happened during that 3-day trip with that camper. Where did they go? Did they go to Canada? That's a big theory. Did they drop someone off in Canada? We've gotten tips about spottings up there in Canada, but we won't know until more of this more details about this case are released, and that may not happen until we actually see if there is an indictment for something more than credit card fraud, or if the FBI comes out and speaks about this. They usually don't until the case is built, and it's not built yet, apparently.
Let's talk about some of the online chatter that is out there. I have been, again, reminding our audience here that even though there's an overwhelming amount of commenters here that say that there's no chance Brian Laundrie is in Carlton Reserve. Let's remind folks, you don't know what the FBI knows. You don't know what Northport Police knows. There could be an indisputable piece of evidence that leads them to, of course, have a fair degree of certainty that Brian Laundrie is here at Carlton Reserve, or at least was at Carlton Reserve at some point in time after, of course, he was known to be missing. So, but with that said, there is so many different threads out there pertaining to where he is. And let's just take this one. And it comes in from Joyce here a moment ago in the comment section. And I want to talk about the Appalachian Mountains. Joyce Herrick here, hashtag hey, Walt, why aren't they checking the Appalachian Mountains? And let's talk about the Appalachian Mountains because, of course, the report came out that Brian Laundrie had experience on the Appalachian Trail. The Appalachian Trail, which of course starts in northern Georgia, goes up through the Carolinas, really all the way to the northeastern United States. It is a mountain range, and it is a trail that is, of course, one of the more famous mountain ranges and trails in the United States here. So first and foremost, have you heard, I don't know if they are checking the Appalachian Mountains here. I don't know if that is something that is actively being pursued here as far as that information that he had a familiarity there and he had been there before. But this is now a lot of people who are asking. And of course, we haven't talked about Dog the Bounty Hunter. That was really the big viral moment over the course of the weekend, Dog the Bounty Hunter. And if you joined me on my WFLA JB Instagram page over the weekend where I was at home, I was able to do a live stream from home, as I was told by my managers to go home and rest a little bit. And Walt, I'm sure you were given the same message, go home and rest up. But I did an Instagram live, and people were asking me, what do you think about Dog the Bounty Hunter joining the manhunt for Brian Laundrie? And my response here, and well, I'll let you comment on this here as well, the more the merrier.
Yeah.
Welcome to what has been now an ongoing search efforts and combing through information here. And the more people and the more resources, the more connections, the more momentum and bigger of it. Dog the Bounty Hunter joins the thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe millions that have their eyes peeled for Brian Laundrie out there. And yeah, if he has a talent for finding people, then welcome. We of course, I think law enforcement would say the same thing. Just we appreciate any and all efforts to comb through tips and any more attention that we can bring to this story and bring to Brian Laundrie's physical description. I'll talk more about that here in just a second. But I was glad to see it. I was glad to see it because if he is a star in the world world of television and he can bring attention to the story, the more attention, the better. And the more attention I think that there is out there, the more it's on people's radars and the closer we are to finding Brian Laundrie. But Dog the Bounty Hunter said, I think we need to be looking at that Appalachian Trail. Look at the Appalachians. And to the 3-day camper trip now, while I'm bringing this all back around
Maybe
full
that's
circle.
what he's looking into. And by the way, when someone says, why aren't they checking the Appalachian Mountains? We don't know that they're not.
Right.
We don't know that
True.
they're not. And the other thing, I asked a law enforcement officer this because I was curious. It hit me over the weekend. Any chance that the search in the in Carlton Reserve and that the area near the river, any chance that's some sort of diversion to make
a misdirection,
a misdirection, or any chance they're not looking for him, they're looking for maybe they're looking for evidence. Let me just take this call real quick.
All right, Walt. Again, bat phone ringing off the hook here, folks. We'll come back to that, but people have been asking about the 3-day camping trip. The 3-day camping trip that, again, the Guthries, a family across the street from the Laundries, spoke to Fox News and told them that they noticed Brian come home, and then Brian and his parents leave for a 3-day, camping trip, or what he thought was a camping trip, because they left with the camper. And how far can you get in? Now you can't say on a 3-day trip because it's a round trip. So how far can you travel from Tampa Bay, from the Tampa Bay area, from the southern end of Tampa Bay, where of course Northport, Florida is? How far can you travel in a day and a half, and then give, of course, there's got to be the time, of course, again, 3 days. So a day and a half there, a day and a half back. I think that you could absolutely make it to the Appalachian Trail. You could make it to northern Georgia. I have family that have made that trip from the Tampa Bay area to central and northern Georgia for various trips. And that is a trip that you absolutely can make in a day and a half. So is it within the realm of possible? Absolutely. And so if there's momentum now, for the Appalachian Trail, that's of course something that we'll find out more as to whether or not there's any evidence. But here's what I want to know. If there was that 3-day camping trip somewhere in the area of September 9, 10, 11, 12, somewhere in that 3-day window there, bring back in Walt here. If there was that trip, then where are the traffic cameras snapping pictures of that camper and of the pickup truck? Where is the evidence that shows where that camper went? That's what I want to know. I want to know from the FBI, where did that camper go?
You can't go anywhere without getting on video. And I reflect on the Aaron Hernandez case when they finally got Aaron Hernandez. They had
really quickly here, Walt, a
ahead.
live picture here. I'll let you continue. Live picture here from outside of the home here. This is some of the tape that's up here around the area, and this is somebody stapled this to a post here outside of the home here. And again, let's make this very, very clear. This is an accusation here by members of the community or by whomever put this up here. Brian Laundrie is wanted on a federal arrest warrant for, of course, credit card fraud, the charge being use of unauthorized access device here. But this just goes to show some of the frustration that is out there in the Northport community. That, again, you just saw it there, and Pat Bramall, our photographer here, panning over back to the house, literally pretty much right there on their front lawn is that's some of the feedback that the family is seeing out there, Walt.
So, back to the video that you're asking, the questions of that, we don't know that they don't have that, and it seems like something that it's so out there about that camper. It's hard to believe that police have not looked into it. But do they want us to know everything about what they're looking at? My answer to that is they do not. They don't want us to know, and they don't want the public to know, and that's not because they're keeping secrets out of contempt for the public. They're trying to solve, or they're trying to, again, build a case. And they don't want interference, and they don't want suspects and defendants to know everything that they know. It is a chess game to some degree, but I just would, how far can you get in 3 days?
When you were taking the call from the bat phone there, we were just talking about that. You can get to the Appalachian Trail in a day and a half. I'm certain of it.
Can you get to Canada?
No, from Central Florida.
Yeah.
No.
So I do. So the Canadian
Can't even make it to Mexico.
I hate to.
Not a day and a half.
I hate to fuel the Canada talk, but we had a woman up there who says she saw someone who looked like Brian. He was wearing a winter hat. Which was unusual because Canadians aren't wearing winter hats now. This was Thursday. This person, she did call the FBI. She has not heard back from the FBI. This was 4 hours into Canada, but I said to her, can you get through without a passport? And she showed me pictures of many places along the Canadian border, the jagged Canadian border, where you don't need a passport to go through. There are stops, but there are also places you can go through a neighborhood and behind this and behind that and actually go into a wooded area and get across the border without being detected. So that's something we'll wait to see what happens, to see where he is, if they find him, if they ever find him.
I'm going to just do a quick Google search here. So interesting. So Northport, Florida to Buffalo, New York, which would be pretty much almost
Niagara Falls, right?
Yes, Niagara Falls, like straight north. If you were going, staying East Coast and just going like beelining it, if you will, for Buffalo, right? That is a drive that is 20 hours long, but that again, you can't just drive for 20 hours. And again, if you're bringing a camper with you, that's going to slow you down at least a little bit. And you have to go at a speed limit where you don't want to attract attention. Right? Don't want to attract. So you have to go the speed limit, okay? And you have to stop for gas and you have to stop for rest. And now you could make the argument that they would rotate and take turns driving, and that's very possible. So maybe, just maybe, you could, in theory, if you did a non-stop trip and rotated drivers, you could make it to Canada, but that is that's a lot in a 3-day window. Just a tremendous amount of travel in a 3-day window.
And every time you stop, I reflect on Aaron Hernandez. Every time Aaron Hernandez stopped, he was captured on video and film or still shots. Every time you stop on the way at any convenience store, there's probably surveillance. And any time that I would assume, does the interstate system have cameras? I don't even know that answer.
Absolutely. Interstate is littered with cameras. Almost, not every, but just a lot of mile markers are going to have cameras.
So there you go. So there is a trail of pictures if that is what happened, but we don't know that's what happened. And I think you just have to ask the public to be patient at this point. A lot of people working on this case.
Eagle 8 HD has to refuel. Just wanted to show you a little bit of that's the underbelly of Eagle 8 HD, one of several camera shots that we have from our news chopper manned by Eagle 8 HD's Paul Lammerson. You can follow him on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Paul posts a lot of shots, not just of the news stories that we cover, but of the beautiful area that is the Tampa Bay area here. So just wanted to keep our audience here up to date, up to speed. And Eagle 8 HD is preparing to refuel. And then he also here live outside of the Laundrie home here. Very quiet here so far this Monday morning. That wasn't the case here, though, Walt. That wasn't the case this morning. I'm going to try to queue up some video here. So to our audience here, bear with me for a second. I'm going to try to queue up some video here from this morning, because there was a sort of a mini protest that occurred here this weekend. And let's see if we can kind of, this morning, not this weekend, this morning. I'm trying to multitask here, folks. Bear with me. But here is some of the sights and sounds from this morning here outside of the Laundrie home. People clearly extremely frustrated with what's been going on.
Laundrie family, you need to cooperate with investigators. This is not going away. You can't run away from this problem. Cooperate with the authorities. They demand answers. We demand answers. The PETITO family demands answers. Where were you with Brian last weekend? Where were you with Brian? Why did you pick up Brian's car at the park? Where did you guys go on Labor Day weekend with your camper? What did you do? Did you dispose of evidence? Or did you set up that stuff for him to survive on? What did you do? Where did you go? We want answers.
So of course, it's been reported widely as a protest. But this is two people very upset, pissed. Let's just say pissed. And with megaphones and just, shouting into the house here. So some have called it a protest, but let's just call it what it is. So we have a responsibility to our viewers. Let's just call it what it is. It's a man and a woman with megaphones, and I think that they are speaking a lot of the frustrations that the general public has with this story, and shouting here into the Laundrie family home in the direction of Chris and Roberta Laundrie, the parents of Brian Laundrie here. So I'd like to know what our commenters think of this kind of activity here.
I just, let me jump out of the journalism side of my brain. I just don't like it. And I just, you have to believe in the Constitution. You have to believe in the process. And it's just not. I look at something like that, and I would ask those people, what do you expect to happen from that?
Right.
What do you expect? Oh, okay, I'll come on. I mean, and they have a right not to talk. That's why our Constitution is better. And by the way, JB, this goes to a post that I was made aware of last week. This fuels this post where somebody, I didn't even respond, somebody said that I have connections to the Laundrie family, and that I'm protecting the Laundrie family, and that I think they even said, oh, I must be a quote wife beater too, because I believe that there's a fairness here and you have to be fair. And that right there is not fair. That's just unfair, because they don't have and I don't know the Laundries, and I don't have a dog in this fight other than I'm looking at both sides. I just look at that as I don't like it. And I think it's unfair. It's vigilant. It's a step before vigilantism is what it is.
I think that's a really good way to put it there. A step before vigilantism. And there are going to be commenters here that are going to say, and there already are, I see it across Facebook and YouTube here, live on Facebook, YouTube, WFLA.com, the WFLA app here, that are saying, if I was in this, if I could be there, I'd be right out there with them with a megaphone. And
you have that right, I guess. They do have that right. I will
have
say
that right.
If we're talking Constitution, they have a right to be out there. That's fine. They do.
But
I think.
You know, and then there's the other comments. Wait, what was that, Walt?
Do they have the right? I guess, do you have the right to, is that disturbing the peace somehow?
That I guess,
is
depending on, and also too, various communities have different noise ordinances. This is, every town has a certain decibel level, but usually a lot of noise ordinances are really only in place overnight, right? So this could very well be in complete compliance with the law here. But I'll throw up just the flip side. Muna Abshi or #KJB saying Muna thinks that it's unclassy. Why do the neighbors have to suffer too from your shouting? And yeah, this is not disrupting, disruptive to just Brian Laundrie's parents, but also to everybody else here on the street that has to hear this racket all the time.
Yeah, and I would go to, somebody might argue it's un-American as well. Again, the right against self-incrimination, the right not to talk to police, the right to have some privacy in your home. We don't know anything about what the Laundries did or did not do. They are not charged. No one charged in the homicide investigation. There's a person of interest. The Laundries aren't named in any document as people of interest. Their attorney did point out they cooperated at least this one time. I get the frustration, though. People want this solved. I think people, again, feel they knew Gabby somehow. Because she was, they feel they know you as well, JB, and me, because we're out there. And Gabby, to a more personal degree, they believe they know her, and so they're way more vested than they would in a regular missing person case. But JB, you've been doing this long enough. Can you think of another missing person case like this one at all that had this much attention? I know we've had some in Florida. But no. I can't think of one like this. It's so unique.
This story is amplified by social media, and not just social media in the sense that right. You and I have been live for so many hours, but in the sense that Gabby and Brian's life, while it wasn't a fully open book, we were exposed to some chapters of that book via the realm that is social media. And so a lot of people felt a connection. We had some commenters here saying that they were following Gabby and Brian's journey even before, like we're talking like into July, but well before there were any perceived problems like the Utah video. So there were a lot of people that felt kinship and really loved following their travels and that van life concept that we were talking about here.
So you imagine those folks, because I didn't know who Gabby PETITO was at that point.
Yeah.
My wife was an influencer. She didn't know who Gabby PETITO was, but she identifies with her. And to a great degree, and I think a lot of people do. But you know, along the again the social media part also, and I will add this: some of the key components that of what we've learned afterwards. The sighting at the restaurant Mary Piglets in Jackson, Wyoming, was released by an influencer out of New Orleans, right? An Instagram influencer. The vloggers, the video bloggers out of Spring Hill, they happen to get the video on the 27th. That one day that keeps coming up. August 27th, the last sighting of Gabby Petito alive and the sighting of her van. Those are modern, that's a modern profession, isn't it? I think it still is. It's a new profession, the vloggers, so that they would be traveling in the same area. So yeah, you're right. Social media has played a huge role in this case.
I did think of one case that reminds me of this as far as the fascination, and it is Elisa Lam in Los Angeles, and that of course was recently brought back into the public view through the Netflix series of the Vanishing at the Cecil Hotel, which true crime aficionados know that one well, and even if you aren't a true crime kind of viewer, the death of Elisa Lam and her going missing in the Cecil Hotel and the elevator video that was chilling. There was that's probably the other case that comes to mind about a missing person where all that sleuthing went on. But that this one is, I think, is far larger in scope and size as far as capturing the audience that it has on social media. So that's the only other one that really comes to mind here. I have been told by 8 on Your Side's Jeff Patterson that there might be more activity here outside of the home here at 1 o'clock. The time now, 12:58 Eastern. So sometime in the next couple of minutes here, folks, there could be more protesting going on here outside of the Laundrie home. So we'll stay. This is a live picture here in the center of your screen. We'll stay live, and we'll see what kind of activity is going on here. We're going to, of course, always bring you the live feeds that we can here. We were live from Eagle 8 HD over the search area, the scaled down search, but we're also live here outside of Brian Laundrie's family's home here. So if there is more protesting like this morning going on here this afternoon, we will of course listen in here. And I think we're going to have a report here in just a couple of minutes from 8 on Your Side's Jeff Patterson here. Bring in a couple of the comments that have come in. We have tons of comments in the queue. You can use hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyWalt. And yeah, we'll look out for hashtag HeyJeff here as well. And Alyssa, or Lisa, hashtag HeyJB. I live in Chicago and have driven from Chicago to Tampa in 22 hours straight myself with stopping for fuel, no rest. Absolutely a possible drive.
But you're in Chicago, aren't you? Still several hours from the Canadian border?
Yeah, you're getting closer. You're getting closer there. But I think to what Ann is saying here, that a day and a half, you definitely have that. Okay, hold on a second. Let's listen in. This is live from outside Brian Laundrie's home in Northport, Florida. Let's listen in.
Petito family, we're still asking you to do the right thing. Call law enforcement. Tell them what you know. Tell them where your son is. Tell them how you have helped them and the last place you saw him. We know you have the information that the officers and law enforcement need to find your son and hold him accountable for his actions. You also need to be held accountable for your actions. You must comply with law enforcement. Quit hiding behind attorneys and tell them what they need to know. What you're doing to the Petito family is wrong. You have to comply. You have to start responding. You have to tell people what you know. You are complicit in his disappearance. We know that. You know that.
Justice
the whole
for
world
Gabby.
knows that. We want justice for Gabby. We want justice for the Petito family. We need you to start being responsible and doing the right thing. You guys are withholding evidence and information from law enforcement officers that can bring us into all of this. We don't want to be out here. We're out here for Gabby. We're out here for the Petito family. We need you and your help your son? Why did you let him go?
You need to cooperate with
Cooperate
authorities.
with the law enforcement officers and help bring an end to this manhunt.
Justice for GABBY. Justice for GABBY.
We want justice for the Petito family. They can't eat. They can't sleep. They want to know what happened to their daughter. And you know where Brian is.
You know.
Bring him home. Bring him to law enforcement. Take him down there now. He's wanted in connection with her murder, and you're doing nothing. Absolutely nothing about it.
You need to cooperate.
Cooperate. We are demanding cooperation from the Laundrie family. What you are doing is despicable. What you are doing is disgusting. It's inhumane. You have blood on your hands. We want you held accountable too.
Justice for GABBY.
They're not going to help you. We want justice for GABBY.
Justice for
We
GABBY.
want your son brought to justice. We want you brought to justice. What you have done is horrible. Stop doing it.
Justice for
Stop
GABBY.
doing the right thing. Start helping law enforcement. We need your help to bring an end to this. We need somebody held accountable for their actions. Your son, the murderer. We want your murderous son behind bars before he hurts anybody else. The Petito family deserves answers.
Somebody delivered
You have
flowers.
those answers.
Somebody delivered flowers.
Why are you not
To the laundry
complying
house.
with the officers? Why are you hiding behind attorneys? Why did you not even speak to the Petito family whenever Brian returned home on September?
Interesting here, we have a delivery being made or a drop-off of some kind. The gentleman here walking to the front door of the Laundrie family home, dropping off flowers here as a protest, as a man and a woman with megaphones are shouting at the house in the direction, of course, of Chris and Roberta Laundrie, the Laundrie parents here. So it looks like this man here is, he might be waiting, he might have knocked on the door. He is knocking on the door, you can see there. And it looks like he is waiting for some kind of a response here. But you can see there clearly he dropped off flowers. Not sure if there was a note there as well. As we're back here with you live here, folks. And maybe we can bring in 8 on your sides, Jeff Patterson. Jeff, can you hear us? And can you speak more about that drop-off we just had?
Yeah, JB, I can hear you. I'm just kind of letting this unfold in front of us right now. Basically, essentially we had a delivery of flowers. The man who has made the delivery is not saying about who they're coming from, or he said that the flowers are not for GABBY, that apparently they're for the Laundrie family. But obviously you have the 2 people who have been protesting. We've seen them out here, the 2 individuals that you see now in front of the home. We have seen them out here periodically over the last week, but today they've decided to bring a megaphone and to make their feelings known very clearly outside of the house. We just had that delivery of flowers. Last week they had a delivery of groceries. The family has been pretty much hunkered down inside of the house and has not had any interaction whatsoever with people out front. Other than the fact that the FBI came here this weekend, and according to the Laundrie family attorney, they collected personal items from Brian Laundrie to establish a DNA baseline for Brian Laundrie, so that they gave up personal effects of Brian's, so that the FBI could know what baseline of DNA to work off of in case they find Brian or anything to do with the case. But that said, that has been one of the few interactions that has happened all week. The Laundries went to go pick up Brian's Mustang last week after it was processed for evidence. And other than one other trip to go out to see their attorney in Orlando, they have not come outside of the house. As you may have mentioned, JB, over the weekend, you had a man who calls himself Dog the Bounty Hunter, who's now tried to interject himself into this. He also knocked on the front door here for the Laundrie family. They did not answer, and he walked away. So a lot of activity, but not real action going on here at the Laundrie family house.
Great to have on here as well from WFLA News Channel 8, Josh Benson joining us here. We also have 8 on here. Jeff, I've been hearing that this couple here, this man, this woman who is demonstrating here outside of the home. very loud
Oh,
sneeze
that's the
here.
biggest
Loud.
sneeze I've ever heard in my
That's
life.
the biggest sneeze I've ever heard. Yeah. As we have the demonstration that's going on here, Jeff. I've been hearing that it's going to occur every hour on the hour. Is that accurate?
I believe so. That's what they've told us. They're literally sitting out in front of the home, kind of like we are, in camp chairs. And once an hour, they get up for about 10 minutes and make their feelings known, which is, their First Amendment right, of course.
Jeff, we have people asking as they watch this. And first of all, what a strange scene. This man dropping off flowers, but then you have these protesters, so to speak, standing out there making all this noise. Are there officers out there currently outside the house? I would imagine there are. And at what point does this become an issue for the neighbors or for even the home in terms of disturbing the peace? I know it's their right to speak out, but at what point does this become an issue or a situation where the police get involved?
So I guess there are police out here, and I guess that would be a question for Northport Police. I don't have an answer to that because they don't have a public information person on hand, and there are officers here on the street, but so far nobody has made any effort at all to stop the two people who are here to protest.
Jeff, it's JB again. Has there been any conversation there since you've arrived to the legality of being out here with the microphones? I know that some towns will have noise ordinances. This is disruptive, of course, to the neighbors here on this block as well. As we're seeing 8 on your sides, Jeff Patterson come into the frame here for us, folks. Again, we'll bring in now our boxes here, and we see two Jeffs, but now we can bring in one Jeff. There's one Jeff. So as we have 8 on your sides, Jeff Patterson here on the left side of your screen, anything about noise ordinances or anything about the legality of them protesting and demonstrating out here outside of the Laundrie family home?
No, I think, as I said, it's their First Amendment right to say what they feel, and so, I think that they're well within their rights to express their opinion.
Jeff, what else can you tell us here as far as the activity that you have noticed here outside of the Laundrie family home here, and are we expecting anything here in the hours ahead?
So it has been interesting just to see the cross-section of people who have come by. I interviewed a couple that had come here from Minnesota. They're in town. They have family that lives in Northport, but not in this neighborhood. And they came by just because they felt compelled to. And I asked them, what had drawn them here. And they just said that, they felt compelled because of Gabby's story and her loss. And they wanted to see the scene for themselves and to try to put it all together. But I think that people have been caught up in this story because, as you have mentioned before, Gabby certainly was out there herself on YouTube and, was trying to make a name for herself in that regard and had kind of had a very public side of her life. Of course, there's the public and the private side being the side we didn't really know about until this all blew up. But she certainly had a public persona on YouTube and was, it looked like was having, the trip of a lifetime going across the country until then it all kind of fell apart.
This scene could eventually become like almost cult status with Casey Anthony's case. I think back to the parents' house when the media kind of descended upon their house. Over time, onlookers would come by, take pictures, because now all of a sudden this house has been put out worldwide for the last few weeks, and people want to just be a part of the story. So I know of people that are actually driving down there just to get a shot of the house and say they were there, which is very strange, but it's part of our culture, and that's what people want to do. I noticed a couple things just behind you, Jeff. First of all, there was a picture of Gabby and a note that was out there earlier. That looks to have been removed. There's a no solicitation sign on the door. That looks to be new. So any idea where the pictures went, stuff like that?
Sure. So last week there was a couple that came by and they put up things on the trees. It looks like those have been removed. They also left a little Gabby memorial over there.
There it is. Okay.
A series of stakes that were over to the side. Those remain, as well as some flowers that were left here. And that was just a couple that wanted to express their sorrow for the situation. I'm not sure how or when the signs from the trees were removed, but obviously they have been. And life is going on in this neighborhood to the extent that it can. I've noticed that, people have been cutting their grass and everything while we were here last week, but you know, the Laundrie family has obviously not been able to cut their grass because there's media people out in front, you know, literally around the clock, keeping an eye on everything at this house. And, you know, I guess it's worth noting that those flowers were delivered. The man rang the bell and knocked on the door, but the flowers are still sitting there, and don't know when or if or how they would be picked up.
You know, I was out there last week, Monday, and obviously the media's been out there, and you guys have been out there every single day since. Is the media still present in terms of kind of having a position in each yard? I know that was always a specific thing that the networks wanted to have. There was agreements that were made on who could be where and what. Is that still happening out there?
Absolutely. There are still media tents that are set up that people have basically parked in the front yards of these homes. They've worked out arrangements with the homeowners to still be here. There's a row of media tents, or not tents, but camp chairs and umbrellas here just across from the house as people have just kind of, you know, claimed their positions. You know, there's people from the neighborhood that are here. There are cars that go by slowly, very periodically, as people are using their cell phones to take videos or pictures. You know, and it's just become a spectacle, to be perfectly honest.
Jeff, again, for those of you joining us here, Jeff Patterson here outside of the Laundrie family home here. We have a few more minutes with Jeff, and then we'll resume taking your hashtag Hey Jeff, hashtag Hey Walt, hashtag Hey Josh, hashtag Hey JB comments and questions here. Jeff, of course, we had the extremely touching memorial and the funeral for Gabby Petito over the weekend. We got to hear from some of the family members there in that very, very touching service that occurred in New York over the weekend. How do you, again, in your reporting experience here, the tenor now shifting here with this story as now the cries for justice for Gabby grows louder and louder here. As far as your coverage here of this story now, first and foremost, has there been any tenor shift over the course of today for you there on that street? And where do you think now the story goes forward now that that we've had, of course, the funeral for Gabby Petito and the manhunt continues here for Brian Laundrie?
So as you probably already noted, Northport police have now notified us that they have greatly scaled back their search efforts in the preserve, and that the FBI is taking over that search effort in that they are not having a mass of people out there searching, that they're doing their focused, targeted search efforts based on information gathered and intelligence that they get. They're obviously not sharing that with us, but Northport police have now advised us that all of our questions directed to the search have to be directed to the Federal Bureau of Investigation. And so, you know, this is not just a local search effort. This is a nationwide effort. The field office out of Denver, to this point, has been running the search, and they have been answering questions, even though there's a field office for the Federal Bureau of Investigation in Tampa. I suppose because of where Gabby's body was found and where the search initiated, or where the story initiated, the field office in Denver would be in charge of that. But of course, you know, they have resources all over the country, and that's part of the reason that there was the indictment on the misuse of the credit cards. That brought into it a federal charge and allowed, you know, federal resources to be able to be applied here, and they will be going forward. Now, we don't know if there has also been a sealed murder indictment or not. We don't know one way or the other or not if the grand jury that initially returned that indictment for the misuse of the credit card has also sealed an indictment based on the murder. But all of that will unfold as the days go forward and as the search progresses. So obviously, you know, the FBI has a lot of resources, and they can, you know, monitor all of the friends and family of Brian Laundrie to maintain, you know, a vigil on this about how you pursue a manhunt going forward from this. And so it's certainly it's not just a search in case Brian Laundrie took his own life in that preserve, but it's also, is he still alive? Where could he be? Is he reaching out to anybody that's within his sphere of influence?
That's a good point, too, because that reserve is obviously filling up with water, and they're waiting for those waters to recede. So that is, if he's out there, that is some tough survival, if at all.
Yeah, I would think that at this point, you know, you would have to be above and beyond the expert. You know, I don't know that Bear Grylls could could survive out there for this time without any other resources. And we know from communication from the family attorney that Brian's parents told him that he had left his wallet and his cell phone behind, and so they were concerned that he was going to harm himself. And so I know that people think that the Laundrie family has aided and abetted, but we don't know that. All we know is that we're getting communication from their attorney in that they believe he has harmed himself. And so, time will tell.
Jeff, we have one question for you before we let you go here. It's a question from one of our commenters. It's for you, from Aaron, here in the Facebook Live comment section, hashtag Hey Jeff. Do you know if the Laundries have been checking their mail?
No. As a matter of fact, when the mail truck came by just about half hour, 40 minutes ago, they did not stop at the Laundrie family home. They stopped at the neighbors. The neighbors already picked up their mail. I have not seen one instance yet where the Laundries have come out to get their mail.
Every detail clearly here under the microscope, and a lot of questions and comments coming in here, folks. 8 on your side, Jeff Patterson. You'll catch him on WFLA News Channel 8. Jeff, we'll kind of monitor your shot here. I know that battery is a precious resource as far as our news crews there in the field. So if your shot power's down, we have other feeds that we can go to here. But if there's anything of note here that happens at the house, we'll monitor your feed in case you power back up here, and we'll go to your feed live.
Very good. Thank you very much.
All right, Jeff. 8 on your sides. Jeff Patterson here for us, folks. Again, JB Buno, Josh Benson here with you live on WFLA Now. We'll really now start to ramp up your hashtag Hey JB, hashtag Hey Josh comments and questions coming in here out of the Facebook Live, YouTube Live comment sections here. And really quickly, Josh, we just kind of threw you into our Monday coverage here. Any weekend notes here? A lot of comments about Dog, the bounty hunter, the DNA evidence that was collected from the house. Anything you want to note here before we really get into the hashtag HJB, hashtag HJosh comments?
First of all, the memorial service, it was a beautiful service, what we saw of it. It was nice to be able to see that, to be able to report on it, and be able to have our station cover certain aspects of it. So I think a lot of people were happy that they could be a part of that too. I know it was for the public, but there was a short time that everybody could stream it live. So that was good to see. Dog the Bounty Hunter, obviously people went bananas over that. Just in terms of his celebrity, in terms of him being there, was he there for just, to actually help, or was it a publicity stunt? He's always going to try to track down what's happening and be a part of any big case. So if he aids in it and succeeds, that's all the better for this case, in my opinion. Other than that, today I touched a little bit on the reward. I know there's been a lot of different rewards popping up. We talked about the $20,000 from the Tampa firm that came out earlier today. I also mentioned a neighbor of GABBY PETITO had put up $5,000 and then moved that up to $10,000. But now I have on one of the GABBY Twitter accounts that are following the case, they've kind of compiled all the rewards that are out there in terms of who's putting up the money, sponsored by, so we have the Buhoff Law Firm, the Upchurch musician, Sean Whalen, the MJ Morning Show, parents of GABBY PETITO, and a neighbor of GABBY PETITO, puts it in the ballpark of $170,000. So whether or not those individuals do pay up if and when this thing ends is debatable, but the fact that this amount is growing, more people are putting their money in the ring, so to speak, to help try to find this guy, and I think we're only going to see more of that as we go on. So $170,000-ish, really starting to climb for a target here with Brian Laundrie.
Again, a lot of questions and comments coming in here through hashtag Hey Josh, hashtag Hey JB. We'll monitor those comments, and really let's kind of go, Josh, you ready to go kind of rapid fire through a lot of these? Because a lot of these have been in the queue since, of course, we had that little micro demonstration here outside of the house, and Jeff's live report there for us at the Laundrie family home there in Northport. Let's get to Tina Shelton, hashtag Hey JB. How do they know that Brian didn't leave the country before the warrant? And I would imagine that if there was any official entry point into another country that Brian, I would imagine that this is something that has been explored. And with a search this magnitude, Josh, when you're talking about the Federal Bureau of Investigation getting involved, they have access to immeasurable resources to know whether or not Brian Laundrie left the country, if in fact he left the country in an area that they can monitor.
I think he'd have better luck, obviously, stateside, just trying to figure out what part of what state he wants to hide out in and be in that wilderness. Likely that's where he would be, in my opinion. I think that That's a good question. Even a lot of people talking about, is he in the reserve or is he no longer there and on the run? I actually ran a poll about that. Just wanted to see what people are thinking, and I put it up there yesterday. And 1,800 votes. Where do you think Brian Laundrie is currently? The Carlton Reserve, 8% think he's there on the run. 91% thinks he's gone.
I've seen similar social media polls, and that number of the percentage of how many people think he's at Carlton Reserve shrinks by the day.
Right.
You know what's also shrinking, folks? Again, if you're just joining us, the search. The search is scaling back. Josh Taylor with the Northport Police Department telling us this morning that they have significantly, or I'm saying significantly based on what we're seeing from the air, but they have scaled back the search efforts at Carlton Reserve. It's been shifted more towards Myakkahatchee. You got it, Josh? Take care of what you need to take care of. They have shifted it to the east, closer to Myakkahatchee, the original search area where they initially began that weekend search there. But scaled back considerably here. And again, the phrase that they used was targeted. You see it there at the bottom of your screen, that the Laundrie search has been scaled back, and it is targeted based on intelligence. And we'll try to comb in, kind of get involved here a little bit more as to what that means. I think we have a comment in the queue here coming up here momentarily, specifically about that choice of words here. So to the commenter there, thank you so much. So here we go. Amanda Bell talking about, she submitted this comment. We were talking about, Josh, the choice of words by Josh Taylor, targeted based on intelligence. Amanda here asking, #HeyJB, does this mean they think that someone has seen him? And this was my first thought too. If they're scaling back the search and it's more targeted based on intelligence, then is there new intelligence to suggest that he is actually in Carlton Reserve, and that's why they're really shrinking their search on one particular spot? I think that actually now is not the case, because if they had new intelligence recently that he was at Carlton Reserve, they wouldn't be scaling down the size of the search. They would be increasing it at the area where the intelligence was obtained here. So I don't think that this means that any sighting has occurred here in the Carlton Reserve area, but that's just me looking into some of the activity that we have here at Carlton Reserve.
And I think a lot of people get really excited about any small development, whether it's online or whether somebody says they have certain information that something's been discovered. Perfect example this weekend, I had several people reach out and tell me that there was these claims that a camp and an electronic device was found in the reserve. So went to Josh Taylor on that, and he told me no evidence linked to Brian Laundrie has been located to his knowledge. So I just tried to press him a little bit on even if they found a camp or electronic device, but he talked about how that would fit evidence, and at this point they haven't found anything related to him. So it could be they have found that. It could be they have found a camp. I mean, think about it. Think of in the reserve, there's pollution whether you believe it or not. I mean, there's going to be things left behind from campers. There's going to be things left behind from just humans who've been in there. So if they did find a camp or even a phone or something in there, obviously they're going to have the process of testing it and see if there's anything related to Brian. But at this point, there isn't. And when you see a search like this scale down, that means nothing is really happening that's, earth-shattering where they're onto a hot lead.
We have had so many questions and comments and so many topics and conversations come in here. I should have led with this. So to my audience here, our audience here, I apologize here. But I did also, too, to Josh's point, I had correspondence this morning with Josh Taylor of Northport Police. And I shot him a couple of questions here. And first and foremost, I wanted him to confirm, and you would think this is a small thing, but this is not small at all. I wanted him to confirm the physical description, most notably the height. I wanted to know, I'm trying to think about it, like if there are all these Brian Laundrie sightings out there,
right.
if the sighting is of a guy that's 5'2", is that Brian Laundrie? No, it's not. If the guy is 6'5", is that Brian Laundrie? No. So let me just go through the confirmed physical description of Brian Laundrie. He is 5'8", 160 pounds, born November 18th, 1997, making him 23 years old. He has brown eyes, brown hair, and they did confirm, this is key, they did confirm tattoos of what looks like ivy leaves on both hands. And I say that that's big because there have been a lot of people wondering online as to whether or not the tattoos were temporary tattoos, easily removed, just somebody or artwork that, that perhaps even Gabby or a friend could have, drawn on his hands. But the tattoos are said to be permanent tattoos of what looks like ivy leaves on both hands. That, of course, is extremely important, as our commenters here have noted, and this is going back to last week, but the tattoos are important because if he is out there trying to elude police, and he is going into convenience stores and concealing his face with a mask, for COVID, and he's wearing sunglasses and he's wearing a hat. The tattoo, if he slips cash, and again, you would imagine he's using cash. If he slips cash at the register, somebody could note that description of the tattoo, and the tattoo is tattoos of what looks like ivy leaves on both hands. People were commenting, "Oh, is it the left hand? Is it the right hand?" Josh Taylor of Northport Police saying it's tattoos on both hands. So I'd like to get that out there for our entire audience here joining us. The second question I asked Josh Taylor, and Josh, this has been a massive question asked our way, is whether or not FLIR, thermal imaging technology, is being used in the search. And I'll read it directly from the email to me. We have consistently been using FLIR technology throughout.
Good.
So that, of course, that means that thermal imaging technology, folks.
That's obviously one of their best tools they have outside of dogs and just getting through that terrain. That's obviously going to be a no-brainer. That's a great one.
Yep. So thermal imaging technology is confirmed by Northport Police and has been used as a part of this search.
Hey, interesting note. We just showed a guy dropping off flowers for the Laundrie house, correct? Is that the first set of flowers you've seen?
Yeah, that's the first that I've seen, and we don't know if that's delivery.
No, here, I'll tell you what I'm hearing from people on Twitter.
Okay.
This Twitter user say, "I'm having flowers delivered to the house today with a rest in peace note for Gabby. I'm hoping to start a memorial in their front yard so they can see it whenever they look out." And other people are jumping all over this. So I think this is going to be a trend. We could see a forest in that front yard if this catches fire, because social media and it could go bananas. This could be quite a sight to see flowers continually being delivered to the Laundrie house.
How about turning turning it upside down as far as the narrative here at the Laundrie home, right? Wouldn't
it be ironic for the Laundrie home to be a memorial for Gabby?
I think that's the intent.
It is.
So that,
but think about that. Think about how big of a worldwide phenomenon this story is. Think if a certain percentage of people sent flowers to that family's house.
If 1% of our audience sends flowers to that home, they don't have room on the front lawn.
That's going to be wild. That's going to be wild. And I think we just saw the first batch being sent. But Jeff out there said that it wasn't for Gabby, though. Didn't he mention that? I think they were asking the flower delivery man.
Right. Well, again, they can only see who it's addressed to, so it might have been for Gabby, but addressed to that address and to Chris and Roberta
prepare
Laundrie.
for more deliveries, because I think that's coming.
Oh, my. So that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Because, so if anybody hears of anybody else sending flowers to the Laundrie home with the intent of it being a memorial for Gabby, can you imagine that front area near the front door there just being littered covered with the entire front yard being covered with flowers for Gabby? That would be the most symbolic, the most, it'd be
a lot of things, I think.
Let's see where that goes. That's very, very interesting, Josh.
We'll see if that continues throughout the day.
Let's see where that goes. Molly McRae, #HeyJB, are his parents still being watched? Oh, yeah, they're being watched. The police are right there on the street. And the police could say that we're there for safety just to make sure that, that somebody with a megaphone doesn't, throw a rock or something like that at the front of the house. But you can bet your bottom dollar, folks, that the FBI and that police are keeping a very close eye. And now there's going to be skeptics who are going to say, "Oh, I thought that's what they said that they were doing with Brian Laundrie. I thought that they were, of course, they knew where Brian was." And I think at where we are at this stage in the investigation, I think it's pretty much, again, we are in bet your bottom dollar territory here, that they are keeping a close eye on Chris and Roberta Laundrie. Vicky here. #AJB, are the Laundrie parents home? What are your thoughts if Brian was ever in the reserve? And here's the thing, because of the immeasurable amount of media attention here, we know the Laundrie parents are home, because every time that they leave, it's a news story. It's as crazy as that sounds. If they leave the house, it's all over. Where are they going?
Right.
You know,
it's very difficult for them to go anywhere.
Right. And if they go anywhere, Josh, it's got to be for an extremely important reason. They're not going to get bubble gum down the street from their local CVS. They're going
have
for
their groceries delivered too, obviously, so they're not even going out for that.
So if they make any departure from their house, it's for an extremely important reason, or at least you would think. And so every time it's a big, so we know that they're home because they haven't left in some time. Grace Brady, hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyWalt, for Walt, who was on stream here with us earlier. Have there ever been any other stories where the FBI wasted time and resources? We want to trust they have reliable sources, but just curious. Oh yeah, no, to answer this question.
Yeah. Have there been any other stories where the FBI wasted time and resources? Sure, absolutely. We want to trust they have reliable resources, but just curious. Well, I think it's curious and interesting the fact that recently they just, as of today, pretty much turned over the entire investigation and communication from the media to the FBI. So now we're going to see kind of a next level of this investigation, and I don't know what prompted that, but according to the PIO of Northport Police Department, now it's in the hands of the FBI. So, JB, have you reached out to Josh and have him tell you that now it's FBI's case and we're not?
Yeah, no, we can pretty much say
he sent
that
me the email that we're supposed to be using for the FBI, but in terms of
it is all
point
the
person now.
FBI is in charge as far as this investigation, and Northport Police, of course, participating, but more in a manpower and they are assisting, of course, in any way that they can. But the FBI is calling the shots, so to speak, here with the manhunt for Brian Laundrie. We've seen another live feed pop up here. That was the note that was just passed along to me. This is live from outside the Carlton Reserve. But, folks, we're not going to stay live on this shot for too long because, quite frankly, nothing's really going on here. And again, for those of you just joining us here, we're live to let you know that the Laundrie search has been scaled back considerably, scaled back enough here, Josh, that that when Paul was in Eagle 8 HD, he was live or in the air for maybe 20, 25 minutes, and he couldn't find anybody searching. I mean, that's how much they've scaled back.
Yeah, and normally he just gets up in the air and he can zero in immediately.
Yep.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting.
I didn't see any other air traffic. You know, that's another curious thing. And I didn't see any other choppers or drones. Not to say that they're not there, but this is a pretty significantly scaled back operation, at least where we are as of this morning, the morning of today, Monday, September 27th. Let's get to some more questions and comments coming in with hashtag HeyJB. Josh Benson, JB Buno here with you live. We'll take your hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyJosh questions here. And Bo Bloomer, hashtag HeyJB. Have they investigated the flight attendant that possibly saw him on a plane going to Canada? It looks just like him in the picture. And we can say that that we know the reports out of Canada. Canada, can we talk about this, Josh, for a second? Sure. Canada is such an obvious like I don't want to say like scapegoat, but like such an obvious destination. Of course, where does any criminal flee? Right? And I'm not saying that Brian Laundrie is a criminal. Of course, he's wanted on a federal arrest warrant. But I'm just saying in general. I'm just speaking in generalities here. Oh, if somebody is wanted, and if somebody's a fugitive, somebody's hiding from the law, where are they going to go? They're going to run to either Canada or Mexico. And of course, you're going to think, duh, JB. Those are the two. That's our neighboring country to the north and the neighboring country to the south. But everyone just wants to immediately jump on the picture that they saw online, suggesting that Brian Laundrie is in Canada. And while it's very possible that he is in Canada, and possible that he's in Mexico, and possible that he's in Texas, and possible that he's at the Appalachian Trail, I didn't see much resemblance in the picture. What about you?
Yeah, and keep in mind, first of all, my wife's from Canada, and we have family members who go back and forth, and it has not been easy to go to Canada, even to fly there. And matter of fact, I don't even know how easy it is at this point to get through just because of COVID. So if he were to go, he would have to submit to have his vaccination card. He would have to do a COVID test if he didn't have his card, because I know a lot of the airlines require that. So that's one thing you would have to get through first off, and even to be on the plane and avoid any no-fly lists. It's just, again, we come back to how many people could look like him, and there's a lot.
And so the question, are they investigating it? I haven't heard if they're like actively investigating it, right. But it's on enough people's radar where people are, I think people are looking for Brian Laundrie everywhere and anywhere that they can.
But I think this is kind of how it's comes to an end. If he's on the run, it's going to be a tip like that's going to say, hey, you know, I saw so-and-so here at a restaurant in a corner sitting on a phone or something. They get that small tip, and that's all it usually takes.
Brandy Morris, hashtag HJB. What's the odds of him running to Long Island? And Long Island is of note because, of course, that's where Brian went to high school, and you know, part of you know, the childhood for Brian Laundrie, of course, being spent there on Long Island. What are the odds of him running there? If you were the most wanted person in the world right now, would you run to one of the most populated places on the planet? Now, you could say, yeah, it's easier to blend in a place with millions of people, but also you have millions of people looking for you and have their eyes peeled for you. Yeah. So
it's far-fetched, but and we would have no idea. I mean, we don't know the odds of where he could go or where he is. I mean, I think the question is he in the reserve or is he on the run? And that's what a lot of people are talking about today. Oh, especially as this scales down a little bit.
I'm just talking to Debbie on our assignment desk here, so we can confirm that 911 call was made. Oh, interesting. Okay, it's not a big deal. It's a small deal, but we can report this from Josh Taylor again. He's really the spokesperson and deals with all media inquiries from the media as far as the this investigation right now, but. Oh, okay. So the FBI is really handling, is in charge, but Josh has been very transparent, I think we can say, as far as answering questions from us and from members of the media. So we asked about whether or not the Laundrie family called 911 on Dog the Bounty Hunter, and yes, we can confirm through Josh Taylor of the Northport Police Department that the Laundrie family picked up the phone, called 911 when Dog the Bounty Hunter was outside of their home knocking on the front door. YouTube's about to go crazy. In particular, our comment sections are likely. And what's interesting is we don't know if the Laundrie family was aware that Dog the Bounty Hunter was the one knocking on the door, but the Laundrie family did, as confirmed by Josh Taylor of Northport Police, pick up the phone, dial 911, and place a 911 call to authorities because Dog the Bounty Hunter or somebody was knocking on the door. But it was at the time that Dog the Bounty Hunter was there knocking on their front doors.
And that's per the FBI?
That is per Josh Taylor of the Northport Police Department. What do you think? What do you think of that?
He was there for a while too. I mean, he knocked on the door several times, went kind of to the side of the house, came back, knocked on the door some more. And eventually
there was a moment there where he was, and I don't know if he was staging a shot there, but he was kind of standing at the corner of the house itself, and he just kind of stood there and he was looking and he was examining. It was almost like he was sizing it up, so to speak. And yeah, so that's interesting as far as them calling. They had the entire world on their front lawn that Friday night. When the media circus originally, pounced, so to speak, on their front lawn. And I don't know if there was any 911 call made there. However, they did call 911 on Dog the Bounty Hunter.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting.
Interesting. What's the odds of him running to Long Island? I would say slim to none.
Yep.
Slim to none.
Agreed.
Let's get to some more comments and questions coming in. You can use hashtag HJB, hashtag HJosh. Let's see here. We've answered this a million times, but 1,000,001 won't hurt. Patricia Jones bangs hashtag HJB. Doesn't driving her van have the same illegality as using her debit card? And the answer is no. Based on, of course, the law here in Florida, we have been told that there wasn't enough to charge Brian Laundrie for leaving Northwest Wyoming in the van and driving it back to Northport, Florida. But there was enough for him to be using this Capital One debit card that he wasn't authorized to use to withdraw a sum of more than $1,000 from the two Capital One accounts.
Didn't I hear Walt too ask the FBI if that was a lump sum or if it was several payments?
Correct, and he said that they can neither confirm nor deny. The classic response from the FBI.
Okay.
Aaron Loretta. Hashtag HJB, and this one was for Walt, and I don't know, maybe we can scream at Walt. Is Walt in the investigative office here? This is something that...
Got your ears on, Walt?
Walt, you over there? Aaron Loretta, hashtag AJB, hashtag AWalt. Can the family lawyer be a lawyer for both Brian and his parents, especially with Brian now having an arrest warrant? So no. So again, we have our legal experts here at WFLA, and I want them to speak.
Need a lawyer on that one.
Need a lawyer on that one. If Walt is combing through some other reports right now, so if he's back with us, we'll answer that question
for now. Yeah.
Yep. All right, let's talk about this. We talked about it earlier. Samantha Subletti, hashtag AJB. What does targeted based on intelligence?
Wait, here comes Walt.
mean?
Let's get it quick.
Oh, okay. Walt's.
So do you know if the parents and Brian could have the same attorney represent them?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay.
Here, I'll bring up your mic. I'll bring up that mic here, Walt, just for a second. We don't. I know you're busy.
Now we have a round table.
Now we got our full round table.
Let's do it.
Now I'm like 5 1 shorter than I am. Can't get the seat to go up.
Let me see if I can bring in everybody.
It's on the
Walt.
side. It's a goofy seat. This side, right here.
Hold on, folks. It takes a moment to bring in a
Takes
new
a village,
member
folks.
of the team here. Hold on, we'll get Walt.
You get a 3-shot in there?
Here, I'll
I
frame you up.
can.
I'll
If
frame him up.
if everybody gives me just a moment here, we'll get WFLA
teamwork here.
senior investigator. I want everybody to know Walt's title and of course Walt's hashtag. Hey Walt, and we'll see if we can bring up Walt here by a click of this button and that button, and then just like boom, like that.
Boom. Oh, there you go. Nice.
Almost perfect.
Hey.
There you are. Okay, good.
So the question there it is from Aaron Loretta. Can the family lawyer be a lawyer for both Brian and his parents, especially with Brian now having an arrest warrant?
You called me in and I don't know the answer. I wish I did. I'm not going to make it up. We've been told that. I've never heard they couldn't, and it appears they are, right? Because we're hearing. Well,
I would imagine if there were actual charges and they were both
So there's no
implicated in the
charges.
case
That's right.
separately, then I don't think they can do that.
At this point, it seems like they're consulting with them about their legal obligations.
Yeah, and if a situation like this, if you had an attorney, he's going to give you the idea of your best plan of action moving forward, whether it's the mom, the dad, or the son.
And the experts we've talked to about the credit card fraud charge, one reason we were told that could be out there is to get the parents in front of a grand jury, and they would have to appear, but they also could, they could say nothing against self-incrimination. They don't have to say anything about their son.
And that's a lot of questions. People said if that came down to the grand jury, would they have to speak?
Right, they don't.
They don't have to.
No,
So
absolutely not.
let's, while we have Walt here, let's just take this one here and let's just have a bit of a roundtable discussion. We know that Walt's got to get back to the day-to-day here, but Samantha Subletti, hashtag AJB, hashtag AWalt, what does targeted based on intelligence mean to you? Josh, you want to go first here? What does that mean to you?
What it means to me, if we're talking about the reserve and if there's enough evidence or intelligence to say they want to continue to search there, maybe they found something, that, they went back to the house to try to confirm DNA with, because they did go back for that. Now, that's probably more related to the case itself, the homicide case. But in the event they needed more information on something they found in the park.
But
we're not going to be told that, though.
If there was something new that was found, wouldn't they be increasing search efforts? Is perhaps
You would think so, but maybe it was several days ago and it was a cold trail. Maybe he was there 7 days earlier, and they still think he may be in there, and that's why they continue to stay there. But now resources are different. It's a new week. It's a new search. Maybe that trail has kind of run cold. Maybe he was there and now he's gone. But it could mean a lot of different things.
They did. And Paul Lamison pointed out they moved to the other side of the park,
back to the original spot. Yeah.
Did they go on the Venice side and sort of have was it methodical? I'm going to hope it was methodical. Some sort of grid. They run out. Maybe their grid runs out, and then they think to themselves, "Oh, let's go to the other side."
Right.
And do something similar. Maybe there's a part they didn't get to, but targeted based on intelligence means to me that somebody tells you something and you're going to target that area. But what led them to go to the other side of the park that they were already at? That's unknown at this point.
But now they're back from where they began.
Right.
In a smaller contingent, which is
a lot smaller. Like we couldn't count last week. I mean, and I think Paul, we counted 10 vehicles this time. So yeah, much smaller.
But for that to be the case today is A little frustrating, I think, for people watching because they want to see developments. Obviously, everybody does, but to see it scale down and start back over, I mean, are they starting the search over again, or are they just going to hit points they already did? I don't know.
Especially in the aftermath of Gabby's funeral, right? I mean, you're thinking this is a new week. You know, this is week number 3 of this story, really week number 2 of the search. Gabby, of course, the tragedy that is the Gabby Petito story. We'll learn more about her cause of death, but the funeral and the touching memorial that was held yesterday on Long Island in New York, and you want there to be justice for Gabby. You want there to be some positive energy here to hear that the search is being scaled back. It's just that all happening within a 24-hour period. I'm sure that there's some people out there thinking, are we really, is this where we are right now in this investigation? Before we let you go, Walt,
I want to jump real quick too, so I have chat for 5 more minutes.
All right, yeah, take this one here. Why don't
yeah, that's fine. I'm waiting on a 2 o'clock Zoom interview, so.
Well, what do you think of this one? Tiffany Hagg, #HeyJB, #HeyJosh. The DNA collection could possibly to compare it to a body part?
You know, 100%. I hate to even talk about that right now, but yeah, 100%. But again, you have to go with what the attorney said, which was Stephen Berlino said the FBI came to them to ask for specific items. I believe he said specific items, and the parents supplied those to the FBI. And they were talking about comparisons. So what are you comparing? It could be that. I think it also, again, could be they had gathered perhaps hair. They'd gathered other things, but they wanted to make sure they had Brian's information. I will tell you, a DNA expert said you want the hair, but it's really important to have the hair follicle, not just the hair, but the part that is actually in the scalp. That's something that he said for labs and such makes a difference. And we, by the way, are talking to a couple of DNA experts and a retired police officer for our 6 o'clock story, just to get an idea of, look, we think we understand DNA. We watch all these shows, but it's not like a show. We've said that. You know, it is you know, so again, it's the dates are very interesting. They go there on Monday. We think they collect DNA evidence, and then they return on Sunday to get more. But during that time, we've had an autopsy begin a week into the autopsy of Gabby Petito, and we've had a search in the woods. Is it possible they found something in the woods they're not telling us about? They're not going to tell us everything. Their job is not to open their book to us. Their job is to build a case, and that's what they're doing.
Been something like, and I just want to put this in the context of just what is, you know, what Walt is talking about here. They could have even found something as minute as like an old Band-Aid that fell off of a sock, right? At Carlton Reserve, and they just want additional, as much comparative DNA evidence to conduct a thorough analysis to see if that matches Brian Laundrie, and so gathering the DNA evidence this weekend could be connected to a multitude of different scenarios here, but we don't know at this time. And
but back to the body part question, though, I will say this. I think if they found a body somewhere, here, wherever, the Appalachians, Canada, they're going to tell us.
Yep.
And it'll be the same process we saw with Gabby Petito.
They did. They found a body, and it was last week, found a body, and Josh,
they did tell us,
and they told us that it was
not Brian.
It was self-inflicted, and it wasn't Brian Laundrie, and they were right on it. They were very transparent. They said, hey, we found a body, but it's not Brian Laundrie, and it's not connected to the case whatsoever.
So they're not going to hold everything from us. I think, you know, and again, they came out with a manner of death. They didn't have to do that right away. They could have waited on that. There perhaps was a reason for that.
8 on your side, senior investigator Walt Butte. Walt, the mic's open for you now. You can come and go as you please.
I just got a tweet pretty funny. They just said, oh, no, the law firm of JB, and Walt just entered the picture. So I think we got to start the firm, guys.
I thought you were going to say entered the chat. That would have been funny, too. JB, and Walt.
Yesterday, we were getting a lot of...
I play one on TV.
They were getting a lot of feedback yesterday. I know I was on Twitter, just about how happy everybody is with the coverage. And they just really like seeing WFLA Now, seeing everything we're putting out there. So
they're hungry. They're hungry for
good little team here.
Absolutely.
We just try to process everything we're seeing every day.
Yeah, and I'll just throw out too, and I think this this goes for Walt and Josh. If you want to provide us any feedback on the coverage or what you think we should be talking about more, maybe what we should be talking about less. I had a commenter reach out to me over the weekend, say, JB, why do you always repeat yourself? You're always repeating yourself. You say the same things over and over again. And let me explain why I do that here. It's not like, you know, and I emailed back the person and I explained that it's not like the days of Walter Cronkite when everybody would tune in for a singular moment in time.
19 minutes.
Right. WFLA Now is a massive revolving door. The average person watches for, I think, 4 to 11 minutes.
Wow.
Somewhere in that range. So I'm taught here, and I do repeat myself every 7 to 15 minutes. I'll repeat some of the facts of the case, and I'll repeat some of the things, like I've been in touch with with GABBY PETITO's family, and I've been of course talking with Josh Taylor of Northport Police, and the search is being scaled back and it's being targeted based on intelligence. So I'll repeat a lot of these things, not because I want to hammer them into your brain over and over again, but because we're always engaging a new digital audience here, especially on news feeds. And Josh, Walt, people scroll